All right, I've been busy on this Sherrone Moore case, the fired University of Michigan coach. And as you know, there's so much news swirling around. I want to get to the truth. So I actually just purchased the court transcript from the day he came to his affair partner's apartment. Her name is Paige Shiver. It's in the court documents. And this is what this detective said happened on December 10th, Wednesday at 4:12 p.m. or a little bit before. Sherrone was texting Paige, "I hate you," and a bunch of other stuff. So I purchased this 7-page court transcript document. I want to read it to you because I've been trying to get to the bottom of what is happening in Michigan. It's so sad, and I'm not trolling by wearing this shirt. I know it's a very sad situation for his wife, his family, even for Paige, for Sherrone, everyone involved, and I just want to get to the truth. All the players and all the people who love them and didn't expect this whole case to happen. Now, you guys know we had heard previously, this is what I'm still trying to clear up this confusion, and we'll go over the court transcripts to try and see where it falls in. I'm trying to get a valid timeline. You guys know that the Maize and Blue Review, they're these insiders. They have a great website and everything. I've been linking to them. They reported on December 10th, they reported intel. Monday meeting provides critical details of Sherrone Moore's downfall. So in that article, I believe they reported Sherrone fired Paige, which would make the most sense to me because it feels like we're missing pieces of a big puzzle. We will get there. And if you want to see this court transcript I just purchased today from the court reporter, it's below on my Patreon, the PDF. You can download it, read through it with me or whatever, but I'm going to read the broad strokes, almost all of it. So before, the Maize and Blue Review had posted that Sherrone fired Paige that Monday, December 8th. Now, to me, that would make logical sense because, as you'll see in this court transcript, Paige will tell Sherrone, say she told him on Monday, "I have nothing more to say to you." I knew something had to precipitate that. But now we hear from USA Today, who contacted University of Michigan, that Paige is still employed. So what I'm trying to clear up is, did Sherrone, in a fit of anger or a fit of, fear, like, oh no, they're going to find out what's really going on, did he indeed try to fire Paige, as was reported, instead of transferring her elsewhere, just fire her? And then did the university come back and nullify that after Sherrone went a little nuts and went to her apartment and all that stuff? And is that why Paige is still employed? I understand she's still employed with the University of Michigan in her role. I don't know if she'll be the executive assistant to the head coach anymore or not. And I don't know if she'll keep her same $90,000 salary, but I understand universities don't like to get sued. So let's talk about what happened that day according to this court transcript and why Paige called her lawyer first. Now, to set the scene, Sherrone Moore was this head coach, as I understand it, the first black coach of the University of Michigan football team. Despite this, I don't even really follow, especially not college football that much. I don't know what his record was and all that, but I know he's married with 3 children, and apparently, allegedly, according to these court documents and accusations, he's had this mistress, at least one, Paige Shiver. She's like 32 years old, and they've been seeing each other for about 2 years. So it's allegations of stalking, it's text messages, it's more of what happened that day. Okay, we'll get to it and read it. So that's a little backstory. Supposedly, the story we got in court was just she broke up with him. He's been stalking her. Okay, she came and presented herself to the university. She finally told the truth. It's been, I guess, an open secret that they were seeing each other. They had been investigated, but they both lied apparently and said they weren't seeing each other. But then she finally came clean. And when she came clean and presented, I guess, text messages like she's going to present here to this Detective Welker, well, the university said, okay, now we have evidence and now we can fire Sherrone. He went a little loopy. He, barged over her apartment, as you'll see, when she was trying to get the heck out of Dodge. She knew she wanted to leave town immediately. He caught up with her, accused her of ruining his life, and made some other threats. She called her lawyer first. Her lawyer was on speakerphone. He backs off and he runs away. You might want to listen to last night. I went through a couple of different entities, 911 dispatch audio, so you can hear that. Okay, so they caught him. They brought him into custody without incident. He was able to, get out on bond. So this is from a detective who testified. The detective testified in the People of the State of Michigan versus Sherrone Moore. And some of these pages you'll see don't have a lot of info, but it really starts on page 3. Ann Arbor, Michigan. Friday, December 12th, 2025, right afternoon, 12:07 p.m. So this is what the testimony says. The court is saying, "Good afternoon, officer. Please raise your right hand." There we go. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Detective Jessica Welker, she just made detective, by the way, really recently I saw on Instagram. She said, "I do." I find it interesting. Back in the day, they literally used to, I've only testified in court once, but I do remember we used to put our hand on a Bible and then swear. I noticed they don't do that anymore. But this is what Detective Welker is saying. She's stating her name, Detective Jessica Welker. She is with Pittsfield Township. Now it says, "Today we have a felony complaint before this court. This is the People of the State of Michigan versus Sherrone Moore. You may proceed." Detective Welker proceeds. "Thank you, Your Honor. On Wednesday, December 10th, 2025 at approximately 4:10 p.m., officers were dispatched to, and I'm not going to tell you where she lives. It's in the court documents, but I won't say it on video. These apartments, and she was moving out anyway, so technically Paige shouldn't live there anymore, but still, I don't like saying that. She lived within Pittsfield Township and Washtenaw.
Give me one moment if you...
Washtenaw and Washtenaw County. Reference an assault. Per dispatch, a third-party caller identified as Heidi Sharp, so that's Paige's lawyer. I find it interesting that Paige was likely so frightened or so conditioned to dealing with, the big University of Michigan politics, how she called her lawyer Heidi Sharp first and not 911. Okay, so per dispatch, a third-party caller identified as Heidi Sharp called advising that Paige Shiver, her client, had called her saying that Sherrone Moore was inside her home attacking her. That's pretty sharp words. And I meant to look up too, the last time I checked, I keep checking, he has not caught any additional charges. So I keep checking his court case here on Michigan's court website. That's why I've been, thank God I found how to get the court transcript. But he's charged with, as of today is Wednesday, December 17th at 5:15 p.m. as I film this. He's charged with 3 things: home invasion, stalking, and breaking and entering. So I don't know if any other charges will be added if more evidence comes out, or if those 3 will stick. Will they drop some? Will he take a plea deal? But she's saying, okay, calling her lawyer, Paige said Sherrone was inside her home attacking her per dispatch. So the lawyer, Sharp, she continues to elaborate that Moore has been stalking Miss Shiver for months. This is the part that confused me. Later in this transcript, we're going to hear that it was that Monday, last week, December 8th, where Paige told Sherrone, I have nothing more to say to you. But the lawyer here is saying he's been stalking her for months. So I'm trying to figure out the timeline. Did she break up with him months ago? Was she trying to get away from him months ago? What happened months ago that he was stalking her, but only last Monday, December 8th? And I'm not victim blaming anyone. I have to get it clear in my head. That's why I like only, valid tips, valid reports, stuff that's really coming from insiders that's true, or court records or whatever. I'm trying to get it in my head. Why are they saying Sherrone had been stalking her for months, but then just on Monday she said, I have nothing more to say to you? Now, I'm not saying it's not true. He definitely could have been stalking her for months. Did she try to break up with him months ago and she finally told him on Monday, I have nothing more to say to you? Anyway, it says when officers arrived, Shiver's attorney, the original caller, Heidi's the one who called, advised that Moore had a long history of domestic violence against Shiver and that he was very dangerous. Now again, DV is nothing to sneeze at. I wonder if Paige has made any other reports or incidents or 911 calls or anything regarding this, or did she tell her girlfriends? Did she tell anyone this? I know a lot of people don't, they like to keep things to themselves, especially in this type of situation where she's messing around with a married man who has this huge job, who likely is the one who gave her great raise, from nearly $60,000 up to $90,000. It's so messy. It was determined that Moore had fled the scene prior to police arriving, so we did hear that on yesterday's dispatch. Just go look in the playlist and podcast if you haven't heard that. So he got out of there. Per Sharp, she advised that she received a call from her client, Miss Shiver, saying, he's here, Sherrone is here. So Paige was freaking out. She's trying to get out of town. She doesn't want the backlash. She knows all hell is about to break loose. She probably didn't know this kind of hell was about to break loose. I think even more hell is about to break loose, because if you heard that snippet of audio I played in my last video about that Detroit Free Press reporter saying Paige has been threatened by some former Michigan player, some NFL star. It'll come out in the next weeks or so. I'm like, oh boy, like threaten, don't change your testimony or change your testimony back. Say you never mess with Sherrone or whatever they were trying to threaten her. Here Paige is again, according to her, being threatened. So her lawyer Sharp advised that Shiver told her that Moore had armed himself with a knife and she could hear screaming over the phone. That just says knife. Of course, it sounds dangerous. Later, they're going to reference butter knives. In speaking with Miss Shiver directly, she indicated that she and Sharp had left the University of Michigan after she had filed a report. So, this is Wednesday, around 4-something p.m. Paige and her lawyer had just left the University of Michigan after filing a report. And believing me, I've put in so many public records requests with the school, police departments, the courts. It's so much stuff. Anyway, we'll see what we get. As I get it, I'll try and present it and bring it to you. Now, she had just come from the University of Michigan with her lawyer. She filed this report. She was getting to her apartment, Paige was. Miss Shiver indicated that her intention was to leave town after making the report. So she went back to her apartment to collect her belongings. So she was like, I'm making this report. I'm showing you guys evidence of this affair that I lied to you guys about it. But yes, here, this is what's been going on. Here's my lawyer. Did Paige know? Oh, they better not fire me if she hadn't been fired already by Sherrone. I still have to get that part clear. Like, why was that reported by Maize and Blue? I know they have insider info, so I'm still trying to get it together. And then why later is the University of Michigan coming back and saying, no, she's still employed? I'm like, was she ever fired? What's going on? So anyway, as soon as she makes this report, she goes back to her apartment to collect her belongings. Paige advised that she was carrying her belongings downstairs to leave, and while inside of her apartment, she heard footsteps outside. Paige indicated that she ran towards the door to secure it, but before she could, Sherrone swung the door open and barged into her apartment with tears in his eyes. So this man, he's lost millions. The contract details, and by me looking at what his contract should have been, and he's fired with cause. And I know a lot of people have issues about, oh, they waited this long because they didn't want to pay him out that $14 million. They would have been, who knows? And a lot of people are like, oh, if they would have beat OSU, would he still have been fired? And yeah, I think so, the way this shook down. Paige indicated that she was approximately 5 feet from the door when he made entry. She advised that she began backing up as he was approaching her. So she must have, I guess, ran into her apartment. She could not get it locked. He barged in. He has tears in his eyes. She's 5 feet away from the door when he's making entry. She's backing up. Sherrone's approaching her. Paige advised that Sherrone grabbed 2 knives out of her drawer and pointed them at her, saying, "You ruined my life. You ruined my life." Paige advised that she continued to back up, telling him to leave, and he continued towards her with the knives, backing her towards the living room. So I've kind of seen the layout maybe of what her apartment is. I'm not sure if I was able to get that. So she's backing up, nice apartments and everything. She's going towards the living room. Paige advised that she was trying to call her attorney. Good thing she had her phone right there. And it wasn't until she got her attorney on the phone and put her on speaker and heard her voice that he immediately backed up and turned the knives on himself. So Paige is saying, yeah, he's threatening me with these butter knives. It doesn't say it yet. You'll see later they're butter knives, I guess. You know, he's threatening her with these knives, backing her into the living room. She's getting her lawyer on the phone, putting her on speaker. He hears Heidi's voice, and then Sherrone immediately turns the knives on himself, pointing them at his neck, saying that he was gonna kill himself and that she was going to watch. Paige advised that he was by the front door of her apartment at this point as he was making these statements. So he's backing away and he's getting the heck out of Dodge too, because he knows she's called her lawyer. I'm sure the police will be here ASAP. Paige advised that Sherrone left the apartment and that she locked the door, realizing that the 2 butter knives were from her drawer, were now sitting on her counter. So she's like, oh, there they are. Now remember, in the dispatch we heard one officer say, be advised he has knives with him. So she didn't realize, I guess, at that point, Heidi must have been calling the police and saying, and he's got knives. But then Paige turns around, she sees, oh, these 2 butter knives are right here left on my counter. So he probably didn't take any knives with him. And if you remember in the dispatch audio I played last night, I try my best to get the correct case they're talking about. And even though you can't treat dispatch audio as gospel either, because there's a lot of confusion going on at that point, they did say there were no weapons registered, I believe, to Sherrone, which kind of surprised me. Doesn't mean he doesn't have weapons. There were just none registered to his name, I guess. But Paige advised this was her apartment and that Sherrone did not have keys. He did not have permission to be there and that he did not live there. So it's not like he had a spare key. Paige's attorney provided this detective with text messages from her phone from the date of the incident. So this is from that Wednesday, stating just after the 911 call was made. So these messages were believed based on statements from the attorney and Paige to be from Sherrone's phone to Paige's phone. These messages were date stamped and time stamped from the date of the incident at 4:12 p.m. That's why it's dated that, stating, I hate you. My blood is on your hand. Whew. So what a text to receive. Reminds me of that Prince song, I Hate You. Paige advised that there was an intimate relationship between herself and Sherrone, but that she had tried to end communication with him on Monday. This is the part that confuses me. She tried to end communication with him on Monday, December 8th, 2025. Paige advised the last time she communicated with him was the morning. Now that's the same time there was some meeting at school that morning. That's why I tend to believe the fact that Sherrone may have met with Paige that morning and tried to fire her. I'll have to wait for more reports to come out, because she's saying she tried to end communication with him on Monday, December 8th. What happened Monday, December 8th that she tried to break it off on a Monday in the morning? Paige advised the last time she communicated him was the morning. So that morning, it's really early that morning too, at approximately 6 a.m., where she told him that she had nothing more to say to him. 6 a.m. Monday morning, that's earlier than I thought. I want to know what really happened Monday, what precipitated, and of course sometimes we have to just wait till all the facts come out. So 6 a.m., this is where Paige told Sherrone that she had nothing more to say to him. She stated that after telling him this, he continued to call her approximately a dozen times and sent her text messages over the next 2 days leading up to the date of the incident. So, okay, I get it. A lot of people are saying, oh, he threw it all away just for a piece of you-know-what. And I'm like, it's got to be so much deeper than that. Obviously, of course, it's problematic. They were seeing each other for at least 2 years. And I don't know how much is true about all the other women sometimes I do believe them. If some people do that just to advertise their accounts, let me say it that way. Some people have the receipts. Like if they have the receipts that it was actually Sherrone purchasing their videos and their subscription packages, and you know what I'm saying, then yeah, I tend to believe them. Anyway, it's deeper than just, I believe, Paige breaking up with him. He knew she had the goods. Maybe he knew she's breaking up with me, she's going to tell the truth, and then I will lose my job and maybe my wife, and I'll lose, this image, and everyone will know. Maybe that's why he called her approximately a dozen times the next 2 days, or really 3 days. That Monday, after the 6 a.m., she said she had nothing more to say to him. So Monday, a dozen times, between Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, he's calling a dozen times, sending her text messages over the next 2 days, leading up to the date of the incident. She stated that prior him coming to her home without her permission, he called her twice. So he called her a couple of times before he came over her apartment that Wednesday. Paige indicated to officers the night of the incident that she had never been more terrified in her life. Sherrone was apprehended shortly after the incident and taken into custody. Sherrone was interviewed. Now this is where he starts telling the truth. And he advised that they were in an intimate relationship for approximately 2 years. Sherrone admitted to removing the knives and stated that he had threatened to harm himself. Sherrone denied physically assaulting Paige and denied threatening her with any weapons. Affiant has nothing further. So the judge says, "Thank you, detective. Court finds there is probable cause in this matter and is signing and issuing the warrants at this time." So this was the hearing to, get the warrant signed. "Detective, always a pleasure to work with you. Take care." Walker says, "Thank you. Have a wonderful day." Court says, "You too." And at 12:12, the hearing concluded. So she's certifying the transcript consisting of 7 pages is complete, true, and correct transcript of the complaint. So she's good. This woman, I'm glad I found this court reporter. I was able to Venmo her the money and she got this right over to me. Excellent. Excellent court reporter. Now, what other documents I'll be able to get, I am just not sure. I'm trying. Believe me, it's not from a lack of trying. So, will we learn more about what really happened? And I just saw that Ohio University coach, who is it, Brian Smith? He lost his job, fired with cause after being, was he kind of put on leave? At first I thought it was the OSU coach, and I was like, wait a minute, no, it's Ohio University coach. Trying to get more info out of that, it's like just secret. So much secret stuff. I'm like, what is happening here? But I'm glad I was able to get those facts. Anything else I'm able to get more clarity on. I have a feeling this case is really going to grow legs. I mean, why did these claims come out from the insider source? Maize and Blue Review claiming Sherrone fired his mistress on Monday. That logically would have made sense to me the way these chain of events unfolded, but the University of Michigan confirmed she still got her job there, and I'm like, how's she even going to work there? Like, she would have to work remote. She knew she would have to get the heck out of Dodge as soon as she presented that evidence on Wednesday. She was leaving town, so she still has her job, but is it going to be a job that she can do remotely? People don't play about their football, their college football. Some of those guys are, they hail them almost like they're Jesus or something. I'm like, I'm just not a sports fanatic, let me tell you. How would she keep her job there? It's difficult. Isn't it ironic? The time I told you, the only time I've been in court where I put my hand on the Bible to take that witness stand box was when I was in college. A friend accused this football player she was kind of seeing, I guess, of doing the worst to her, I'll say. And so I had to testify in that case. And in that case, he was set free. He was not convicted. Part of me was relieved in a way because there was confusion. There was what she told me, what I knew she may have experienced. And then there was like all these anomalies and you're like, what is really happening? All these years later, I still don't know what's happened with that case. I would never want anyone to do time based on a lie. And I'm not saying Paige is lying, believe me. I want her to be safe. Her name is already out there. I'm assuming she's gone now out of town. How is she going to keep this job? Because there are some people out there who they aren't safe, and you want her to be safe. If she keeps her job at University of Michigan, like how would she ever go back on campus? I feel like she would need security, because some people understand, yes, this is why Sherrone was arrested. Some other people are like so focused on football and what it all means that they were saying, oh, Sherrone should have never gotten arrested. And I'm just like, anyway, I want him to have his day in court. Again, I'm always praying for his wife, his family, just the whole situation. I don't know what's going to unfold. Paige is accusing him of being violent, and that is scary. I just want the truth to come out. I want him to do soul searching. Like, why? It's almost like you gain the whole world, you can't lose your soul. So let's just close there. Psalm 90:17. May the favor and beauty of the Lord our God rest on us. Establish the work of our hands for us. Yes, establish the work of our hands. So there we go. Go back and watch the whole podcast. I'm sure I'll keep up with this one, other cases. I just want to dig down to the truth. I want to see people who are willing to tell the truth, not threaten victims. And at the same time, don't tar and feather Sherrone Moore either. Like, I want to know what's true. We can't act above it all like, oh, these people are so much worse than us. It has to be seeking justice, seeking the truth, wanting the best, especially for these wife and children involved, everyone that's hurt. And I get it. Some people are saying, oh, she knew he was married. I'm sure she knew he was married. I'm sure she regrets. I hope by now what she did with him. I hope he has regrets. I hope they're both repenting. Anyone who needs to repent, I pray they fall on the rock that is Christ. Ask for repentance and, can hopefully move past it. But I don't see any assault charges or any charges like that. Home invasion, stalking, I think the stalking is the one that might carry the most time, or the breaking and entering. Maybe those might be the ones. I don't know which ones. There are at least at least one felony in there, and that's what you don't want. We'll see what happens with this case and many others, but again, this is one that involves college football, so much money, who's going to be the next coach, and adultery, affairs, like so much drama that some people let that passion take over, and I hope that's not what they do. If people could just be more forgiving all over. Of course, we don't want DV, and of course, we don't want affairs happening, but that doesn't mean we have to be so staunchly on one side. Like, some people are like, she knew what she was getting into, whatever. Or some people are totally like, oh, he shouldn't have got fired, whatever. All these extremes. Anyway, that's what I have. Read the 7-page detective's testimony, court transcript yourself if you want, and I'll see what other paperwork I can get so we can go over more factual information. That's what I want. I want the facts. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for updates on this case, other cases, new cases. You know how it goes. Thank you.